It's Q&A time. I think I hope they have a lot of questions. I mean, we just heard from two different very perspectives. From someone who had built something for business operation for quite a few years, and then to someone ready, eager to launch something, a social product, and from entertainment business to the financial business. So quite different perspectives. So floor is open. Anyone has a question, please speak up or raise your hand. I'll pass you the mic. All right.
Yeah, hi, Mikaal. Actually, are you from the brokerage industry?
I am. I was with a company called E-Trade for 11 years. So yes, I came from the industry, but it was largely technology, and the business really had more in common with consumer internet than it did with brokerage. But yes.
The reason I was asking is if that industry that you were from largely was based on intermediaries and not the online aspect, I mean, how was there any sort of level of worry or concern on your part that people you were dealing with wouldn't take to the change in terms of having gone through intermediaries and not using intermediaries?
From my perspective, no, because we took a close look at where people get their information, and nothing's changed in the last 11 years. So you're either getting information from an advisor, but if you are online, you're going to bulletin boards, you're going to Yahoo Finance, that information's there. You're talking to friends and family. People talk about stocks, certainly in Hong Kong. So the insight is people like to share ideas, but the problem with the model today is everything's declarative. So if I go to Yahoo Finance, I might be talking to a 10-year-old. I don't know. Did he really buy Apple at 10 and sell at 400? Who knows? All I have to go on is what they're telling me. Whereas our model is completely tied to the transaction. So you know that everything is real, everything is validated, and we maintain people's privacy by giving them an avatar and a distinct username. So their privacy is protected, but you have the assurance that everything that is getting filtered through the social network, be it the sentiment of the community, buys, sells, trading ideas, it's all real.
And one more thing, I presume you don't have intermediaries as such in your company. Let's say you're looking for a business who employs intermediaries and you're wanting to stay ahead of the game, but at the same time whilst not putting people out of work and making your intermediaries. How do you think it's much a way in terms of going forward in that sort of thing?
I think it's very simple. I think just embrace social. I look at our competitive set, and from sort of the largest at HSBC all the way down to local brokers, and these businesses for different reasons haven't been able to engage social at a local level. So there's a lot of push communication from sort of corporate communication, but there's no conversation. And I think any business that is not prepared to have a conversation with its customers is going to be in serious trouble as we move ahead. So I think there's no harm in having intermediaries. It's a business model that works, but to evolve it, I think you're going to have to let those intermediaries be social, engage with customers on these networks, or suffer long term.
Any question, anyone? All right.
I have a very practical question. Where do you find good developers in Hong Kong? This is my biggest issue. We have the business model, we have the idea, it's all lined up, but it doesn't work.
From our perspective, our two lead developers are actually French and relocated to Hong Kong. But that said, we have a technology team of 4, 2 that relocated and 2 that are local. It's not easy. We had the benefit of poaching people from our previous company, and they had that sort of domain experience as well. So I fully understand it's not easy. I think on the same token, the other resource that is very scarce in Hong Kong is good design talent as well. We made a conscious decision that we really wanted to start to insource that more and more because we wanted to control all of the sort of touch points that the customer had, everything from the product to the collateral, so sort of 360. So I definitely sympathize. It's not easy, and it's not easy to recruit. The last thing I'd say is recruiting a team for a startup is hard. You're excited because maybe you're founding a company, but you get to sort of employee number 5, they don't share your enthusiasm. They've got bills to pay. It's not easy. So growing a startup and hiring staff is extremely difficult in Hong Kong because, again, I think people are naturally risk averse, but you got to work it out.
We also had gotten a French overseas developer for a while before he actually got poached by another company.
Yeah,
so
French, it's not easy either, no?
no, he was okay. He was okay. But I definitely agree that the culture here is not startup friendly. I went to UC Berkeley in Silicon Valley, and especially at that time in say the 90s, the thought of a computer science guy dropping out of classes to start up a company was almost, I wouldn't say the default, but it was pretty frequent and popular, and a lot of people I know did it, which is how like RottenTomatoes.com started and things like that. And then when we tried to sort of find those same kind of people here, it was actually quite difficult. Even one of the guys we tried to recruit, he was working for us part-time, we tried to get him full-time. He actually had a computer science degree from UC Berkeley, but his mom was forcing him to get a CPA so he could become an accountant here in Hong Kong. And basically his family pressure kept him from becoming, taking a full-time offer from us to do what he had, even what his major was, to be a computer scientist, to develop technology. He would rather, or at least they would rather he become an accountant because that's a nice, stable, financially beneficial sort of thing that they can brag to their other parents about. I don't know. But for us, for our current development, actually, and I don't know if I'm allowed to, I guess I can say that we actually hired engineers in China. So we have a Beijing office now, and we found that the startup talent there and the mentality is actually much better. The problem being that it's also much hotter and salaries are higher and there's a fight for talent. But sort of the culture and the risk-taking in mainland is much better.
Any other questions? Still plenty of time. All right.
You mentioned earlier that you advise a lot of the companies to try to monetize first. So obviously that goes against, it's not really what Facebook did in the beginning anymore, even Wikipedia, things like that. Why would you recommend monetizing?
I think you've got to have a really solid idea of how you're going to make money and monetize your business, because unless you have it, the Silicon Valley model is very different than other places in the world. And that Silicon Valley model is build big, we're not going to worry about how you make money, and that's why you saw Twitter, and it's largely a factor in their success. You see Twitter grow, you see Facebook grow, without a clear idea, even Google to some extent, of how they were going to monetize this success. But scaling takes money, takes a lot of money. So these companies are raising $20, $30, $40 million rounds in order to get to the point that you've got millions of users, and then you have the luxury of thinking, okay, how can we monetize these bases? In Hong Kong, our issue is there are not many industries here that are large enough to get to that degree of scale. The market just isn't big enough, and it is, let's be honest, difficult to compete in China from Hong Kong as well. So if I look at sort of tourism, or I look at financial services, or I look at real estate, those are really big industries where there's probably great opportunities, but probably not big enough to have the luxury that you're going to get to a degree of scale and users that you can then monetize. So I would say, there's no harm in trying to build a 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million business, but if you're going to do that, have a good idea of how you're going to make money early. That's my advice for a market like Hong Kong, maybe not so true for Silicon Valley.
All right. There you go.
Hi, I got a question on the topic itself, which is social media, particularly from scratch. Because the thing is, social media is like chicken and egg problem, right? You got free content, you got more user computing, come to. And how do you get that, especially maybe I think for Alive Not Dead, when you're a celebrity, you have a center of gravity to start with. But for financial services type service, how do you get the community going from 0 user to it?
We can actually learn a lot from Alive.net. Alive Not Dead is very, very similar in that even the finances, as nerdy and pathetic as it sounds, the financial services sector has their own superstars. So these people blog, they're writers, there's a lot of people with big followings, especially in Hong Kong. The one insight is in Hong Kong and in Asia more generally, people aren't as self-directed as they are in the U.S. So sort of, I come from the U.S. It's very deep, as I say in my DNA, that I don't want advice from everyone. I want to do it myself. Whereas in Hong Kong, people like advice. They like idea. They like sharing ideas. So it's very different. So it's the same concept. It's just not a celebrity. It's a celebrity within this particular space. And without that sort of gravity to build liquidity in the social network, you're absolutely right. It never gets started. So for us, it's a strategy.
So there is sort of the secret of social networks, which was a big topic of discussion a couple of years ago. It's called the viral loop. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. So when we started sort of growing organically, and sort of a celebrity would join, and then maybe their fans would email each other, and people would find out about it. And obviously we would get some traction from the news headlines or from even Google. People would come to our site and sort of organically grow like that. But then our founder actually went back to Silicon Valley and was talking to some guys, and they're like, "Have you heard about this viral loop thing?" And they're like, "You definitely need to learn what it is." And the idea with the viral loop is basically the path from which you acquire new users. So in this case, when you sign up for an account, let's say on Alive.Dead, one of the things that you are first asked is, would you like to email all your friends about your new page to come check out the photos you just uploaded or the list of your favorite artists? And so the idea is that I, as a user, can now email blast, hypothetically opting in and making sure all my friends is relevant to them. But basically blasting to all my address book to say, hey, check out my Alive.Dead page. And the idea is, and there's a very good sort of mathematical formula. You can go step by step, say, okay, I, as one new account come in, if I email 100 of my friends, what's the open rate on that email? What's the click rate on that link in the email? How many of those people actually come to the site? So maybe if I blast 100 people, maybe 10 of them will actually come to Alive.Dead and have the opportunity to make a new page themselves. And then of those people, how many actually go through all the steps and do it? And so let's say maybe it's 2 people. And of those 2 people, how many of them actually go and blast to their 100 friends? So the idea is what's that percentage from the first guy that comes in to how many of his friends can he recruit to how many of his friends can you recruit? So obviously if you can get that number to be more than 1, so I start out as 1 person and I turn it to I invite 2 people and they invite 4 people and they invite 6 people. That's how these social networks, there's things like dig.com and other ones like that, actually grew quite fast through this method. The problem is that it can also become broken. If people never actually get to the content, but only see the email invitation, and there were some sites that sort of cheated people by saying like, oh, someone just uploaded a photo of you, you have to go, it was tag.com. So they'll tell you there's a photo there, which there may or may not actually be, but you can't see the photo until you go and spam all your friends to join as well, and tell them that there's a photo there too. So there were sites that were doing things like this. The great thing is that they can see, basically exponential growth. Like if you can get that percent above 100%, so you'll see like after 5 or 6 rounds of email interaction, which may be like 2 days for people to answer my email, 2 days after that for the next round to answer that email. You can actually see growth. Like you'll go from 100 users to 1,000 users to 10,000 users to 100,000 users. That can be very successful, but ultimately those are all going to be sort of dead, empty accounts if there's no content there for the people to actually see once they log in. So it's important to sort of be aware of these things and try to build it into your system, but then don't overdo it. Don't spam people. Otherwise, it's kind of meaningless to say you have 500,000 accounts, but only the first 50 ever actually used it.